Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So in today's video, we have more good news for beneficiaries of Social Security and really just Americans in general, as they finally did it. Yes, Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden finally reached an agreement, at least in principle, to raise the debt ceiling. So we were just about 1 week away from potentially defaulting on our debts. We're going to hear more about what's in this bill today, but I am going to be talking about, at least probably 99% of what's going to be in the bill, what we can expect, and again, why beneficiaries of Social Security can finally breathe a huge sigh of relief. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so again, late last night, they finally did reach an agreement, at least in principle, to raise the debt ceiling. This is going to be for the next 2 years. So this is the good news for Joe Biden because, Republicans wanted to raise the debt ceiling for just the next year. So once again, Biden would have to deal with it next year before running for his re-election, but he was able to push that out another 2 years. So he's not going to have to mess with that until he is either re-elected or a Republican beats him in the next election. And at that point, they will once again have to raise the debt ceiling. Now, Republicans did get something out of this deal. So with that, there are going to be some new work requirements for people to receive SNAP benefits. That is now going to be up to the age of 54. So those between 50 to 54 will now have some new work requirements. So we are going to be discussing that. It is going to exclude some people though, so we're going to be discussing that as well. Now, in addition to that, we also had some funding that was clawed back. So in the Inflation Reduction Act, we had around $80 billion to hire new IRS agents to audit more Americans. That funding, or at least some or part of it, is going to be clawed back, so they're not going to be spending the $80 billion all towards IRS agents. And then also they're going to claw back some of the unspent COVID-19 funding that was assigned during the whole pandemic. So that was pretty much the win for Republicans, but there are more things in this bill that we are going to be discussing. So according to CNN, White House and House Republicans struck agreement in principle to raise the debt ceiling. So the White House and House Republicans have an agreement in principle on a deal to raise the debt ceiling for 2 years and cap spending, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy confirmed Saturday, moving the nation one step back from the brink of a historic default. The agreement in principle was reached by President Joe Biden and McCarthy during a phone call Saturday, a source familiar with their call said. Now both leaders face the tall task of selling the deal to their allies in both chambers of Congress, where Republicans control the House and Democrats control the Senate. The deal must get passed before June 5th, the crucial date when Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the U.S. will no longer be able to pay its bills. So again, June 5th is the crucial date. That's going to be 1 week from Monday. So they are really on a tight timeline right now. So it is expected that the Republicans in the House are going to be returning from their Memorial Day recess on Tuesday, and then they're actually going to be voting on the bill on Wednesday. Now, there are rules right now that they are supposed to be given at least 3 days to read over the bill. That means that if we do have the bill written today, which is going to be a tight timeline, they will, I guess, have Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday to read over the bill, and then they are expected to vote on the bill Wednesday. Now, this could actually get pushed back to Thursday, potentially, if they need an extra day to read over the bill. On that, we'll just have to wait and see. And then, of course, I guess if they pass it to the House on Wednesday or Thursday, it could potentially get passed through the Senate maybe on Friday, and then it would have to get signed into law, I guess, over the weekend by President Joe Biden. So we are still on a tight timeline, but June 5th is that date that they have to get this passed by. But it's not necessarily guaranteed to pass, and we're going to be going over some reasons why. So according to CNN, here are some key parts of the deal. So the agreement in principle will lift the debt limit for 2 years and roughly cap non-defense spending to current fiscal year levels for 2024 and increase it by 1% in fiscal year 2025, according to a source familiar with the negotiations. As part of the deal, the White House has also appeared to have made concessions to House Republican negotiators on work requirements for people receiving food stamps. The agreement reached on Saturday phases in food stamp time limits on people up to age 54 that will then sunset in 2030, while also exempting veterans and people who are homeless from these limits, according to this source. The current work requirements for the program, formerly called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, only applies to certain adults between the ages 18 to 49. So it's going to be getting bumped up to 54 from where it previously was at the age of 49. And the agreement does not make any changes to Medicaid and prevented certain changes to the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program called for by Republicans, according to this person. A source with knowledge of the negotiations told CNN earlier Saturday that a provision to impose new work requirements for certain social safety net programs had remained a final sticking point. Republicans have been pushing the issue hard, saying beneficiaries of programs such as food stamps who do not have dependents should be forced to follow new rules. Democrats, however, had cast that idea as an attack on poor people. So again, these new work requirements to receive SNAP benefits is only going to change for those between the ages of 50 to 54. It's going to be 20 hours per week, as long as you don't have dependents and you're an able-bodied adult. And it also excludes veterans as well and those who are homeless. So the article here goes on to say that the fact sheet says the agreement will cut spending year over year and set a 1% top line number for the next 6 years at 1% growth. It also includes SNAP and TANF work requirements. The bill would include an administrative pay-as-you-go provision to require that Biden finds offsets for rules and regulations that increase federal spending. It would slash the fiscal year 2023 funding request for new IRS agents and claw back tens of billions of dollars in unspent funds meant to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's going to claw back the funding for IRS agents that was passed in the Inflation Reduction Act, and it's also going to claw back funds that were originally designed to be used to combat the COVID-19 pandemic that just never ended up getting spent. So those are the savings for Republicans. And according to this bill, I mean, we have, members on both sides breathing a huge sigh of relief that maybe they are going to finally be able to raise the debt ceiling. After all, there were a lot of doubts on whether or not they could actually end up reaching an agreement. But finally, once again, last night they did. So right now, we actually have a lot of members in the House of Representatives on the Republican side, very upset about this deal. So a lot of members in the House Freedom Caucus, they wanted even more cuts. They wanted Speaker Kevin McCarthy to have even more cuts in this bill. They thought maybe he was just a little bit too soft towards Joe Biden. But on the flip side of things, we have a lot of Democrats as well, very upset with Joe Biden, thinking that he gave in too much to Republicans. So once this bill reaches the House and they vote on it on Wednesday, there's a very strong chance that we could have a lot of Republicans vote no on this bill. And then, of course, there's also a very good chance that we have a lot of Democrats vote no on this bill. So at the end of the day, we're really going to have to focus on those moderate Republicans and those moderate Democrats to vote on this bill, because we're going to have Republicans probably rejecting the bill, and then we're also going to have a good bit of Democrats rejecting this bill. But they're definitely going to need to have both Republicans and Democrats in both the House and the Senate approve of this bill. Of course, we do have some members of the House Freedom Caucus, like Jim Jordan, saying that he thought it was a pretty darn good deal. So we do have some Republicans pretty happy about it, but I would say in large part it's probably the Democrats most disappointed in the bill, because they thought that they should just raise the debt ceiling and raise the debt ceiling by itself and not have to give in and have all these spending cuts in order to raise the debt ceiling. So a lot of them were pretty disappointed. Now, we actually have one Republican senator in Mike Lee saying that once he sees the bill, if he doesn't like it and he believes that they're not cutting enough spending, he's actually going to use a maneuver to hold up the bill from possibly passing in a timely manner. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. Hopefully, no funny business takes place if the bill passes the House and reaches the Senate. Now, of course, Joe Biden was very happy about the agreement. He says that it was a compromise. Not everyone is going to get what they want. Whether it's Republicans or Democrats, they have to reach some sort of an agreement and compromise. And again, that timeline, House Republicans are going to be back on Tuesday, likely to vote on the bill either Wednesday or Thursday. If it passes the House, it's going to move on to the Senate. Once it reaches the Senate, they will need to have at least 11 Democrats approve of the bill, assuming that all 49 Republicans vote in favor of it as well. So this is probably not going to be a unanimous vote. There's probably going to be a lot of people rejecting the bill. So we just have to wait and see, but finally we can breathe a sigh of relief, especially Social Security beneficiaries, because a lot of reports came out showing that payments for Social Security could potentially be delayed in June and in the months ahead if they were unable to raise the debt ceiling, not to mention the millions of jobs lost and just tons of economic pain if we ended up defaulting in our debts. So obviously some very good news there, but we have a long way to go. I'll definitely keep you guys updated over the next week as the bill reaches the House and they vote on it, moves on to the Senate, and then gets to President Joe Biden's desk to finally be signed into law. But that's all the news that I have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate it if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.